How we doing, folks? Your host Moose here on the Pitt Panthers Football Network as we continue to grind through the offseason leading into Season 4 here. Of course, we've gone through recruiting. We just welcomed in our new recruits into the fold, and now we're going to talk about what we were able to do regarding the new players that have come into the team and shifting the lineup around effectively in order to, utilize players as best we can. And so we go through our different positional rooms here. You can see quarterback-wise, Jay Keys will stay as a quarterback. He comes in as a 78 overall quarterback. Of course, we're going to leave him there. He's going to compete with AC Reese. We haven't gone through progression yet. That'll come up later in the episode here, which is why Keys comes in as a higher overall rating than AC Reese, but AC Reese still has to go through his offseason progression, which will bump him up a little bit further. You can see how good Keys would have been at other positions. Would have been a 77 as a receiver. Fantastic player. I think 76, 75, something like that as a halfback as well. So he could have played anywhere offensively for us, but for now we're going to leave him as a quarterback, let him progress in that way, but we're going to use him in other roles throughout the season. So that'll be a good quarterback battle between Jay Keys and AC Reese. Ben DiNucci, of course, will be leaving the quarterback room. He's actually going to transfer to Central Florida, where we'll actually get to see him later on in the season. Now, Justin Walden would have been a 68 overall quarterback. Because I already had switched his position, that's why the ratings don't make a lot of sense. But he would have been a 68 overall quarterback. Instead, he's a 71 overall halfback, and he's our third halfback. I mean, he's very, very good. Jay Keys, like I said, has a bit better rating as a halfback, but he's very good, so he's going to play a role there for us at halfback. And then of course he has some passing ability, so if we run a halfback pass or any kind of wildcat formation or anything like that, he could factor into that as well. Patrick Jones moved from left end over to right end for us, which means he's going to be our starting right end. Malachi Bordeaux, the redshirt freshman, will spell him. Then we'll have Wolfgang and Baker still on the left end position. Calvin Carlson, I moved him from middle linebacker to outside linebacker because I think there's just a better chance of him being able to play. We had a ton of middle linebacker depth, but I decided to move him to outside linebacker. Now, keep in mind, I did all this before I was able to rename the players because I had to get to preseason to be able to rename them. So that's why they still have their old names before they were renamed. We moved around some safeties as well. Jacob Laughlin moved from strong safety to free safety so that he can get some reps there in case of Paris Ford potentially leaving early to go to the NFL draft, or just having some depth at that position, especially because Avery Heller came in and was so good already. I want him to be able to be a starter. This is Drew Holland was his original name. I want him to be a starter very soon, and so we moved Laughlin over so that we can have that kind of tandem moving forward. We then had to move some of our linemen around. If you take a look at that, we had a ton of left tackles, no right tackles, so we did just a bit of shifting on the offensive line. And Ryan Henry, as a left tackle, we're going to move him to right guard, and rather than being our third left tackle or a backup tackle, he's going to become our starting right guard. So it'd be good because then, number one, he can progress a good amount. He's still young. I think he's only going to be a sophomore this year, redshirt sophomore. So that's 3 years of starting and progression out of him. I think that's going to do very well for what we're going to have on our offensive line. I'm really excited. And he's going to progress. So from 73, if he has a good offseason, he could be 78, 79 overall. And that's going to mean a lot for the progression of our offensive line. But we're going to be very young. We're replacing 3 starting seniors. But I like the depth that we have. And I think when progression comes in, pretty much everybody on our line is still going to be at least close to 80 overall or better. So I think they'll still be very, very solid. And that's what we're going to see here in just a second. So you see the moves we made, swapping positions around, things like that. We're going to take a look at how we did in off-season training and how that's going to then affect our team moving forward. So you can see big off-seasons, Jay Bump, +7 overall in the offseason. Kickers and punters always seem to do very, very well in training for some reason, probably because they don't have that many attributes to bump around. But Jay Bump comes out of training very, very solid. And you can see we have a good, solid team. I mean, we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys at 90 overall or better that you can already see right there. A very, very good roster. Kenny Pickett had a great offseason. His overall awareness keeps getting bumped up and things like that. I may bump some stats down a little bit just because quarterbacks, for some reason, when you play the games, they go up like 10 overall in a season. Like, I'm going to look at his overall. I think his overall at the start of last season was like 80, 82, 83, 84, somewhere in there. So he's up to 92 already because you get those awareness bumps mid-season. I may drop that down a little bit, put him at like 90 overall, something of that nature, just because then he's going to bump up more in the season. They seem to get like +2, +3, etc. overall, or awareness boost, which bumps their overall up some more. So I may mess with that. Both of our running backs had some good offseason. CJ London and Todd Sibley both did well, so they're fairly close in overall. They're both going to get a good chance to start and have an opportunity there. Aaron Matthews, a good offseason. Paul Lease, very, very good offseason. 5+ overall, bumped his speed up a little bit. I think he has he showed a lot of ability. I think he's going to be fighting with Trey Tipton for that number 3 receiver, that slot receiver position behind Aaron Matthews and Maurice French, who I think are slated to have very, very big seasons. But you can see we don't have a ton of receiver depth, so Jay Keys is going to get a good opportunity. I also like Caleb Cannon. Caleb Cannon as a tight end is a very good receiver. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity potentially to get formation subbed into some 4 and 5 wide receiver sets as a receiver because he's just a good pass catcher, and I like him a lot. And look at our line here. 86, 84. Left tackle was very good as well. We've got a lot of depth here. John Cooper had a great overall boost. Ryan Henry got a +6 in the offseason, which was fantastic. We moved him to right guard, showing a lot of aptitude there. +6 overall, which is fantastic. Learning a new position, and he's not going to be a liability for us. You know, he may not be a world beater, but he's not going to be a liability. Michael Collins as well. Solid offseason, 79 overall. For a sophomore, I mean, he's going to be very good. By the time he's a senior, he'll be close to 90 overall. So he's going to be a very good, solid contributor for us. And our offensive line just look stout, right? They don't look fantastic high-rated overalls, but they're very good. Both good off seasons for Wolfgang and Baker. They're going to both compete for playing time. Of course, Wolfgang had an unbelievable season last year. Patrick Jones had a good offseason, a +4, and we're going to see when we get to progression, Patrick Jones had himself an offseason, and that's going to be a big, big thing for us this season. Our defensive tackles, 3 really good contributors. Keyshawn Camp and Amir Watts, both as seniors, are going to be unbelievable. Darren Toth, 84 overall, is a true junior. Also a very, very good player. From there, it's a bit of a drop-off, so hopefully we'll be able to target some defensive tackles in the recruiting range this season, just because, you know, after next season, we'll have Toth, and then, I mean, Lumpkin is the next guy after that, and he'll probably be below 70s next season, so hopefully we can get some progression there. Barry Jenkins, good offseason, up to 86 as a junior. I think he's a guy that could go to the NFL. Fantastic player. Salim Brightwell's up to 90. So we got an 86, we got a 90, and we have an 82 as our starting linebackers. We'll see when we get to right outside linebacker. Chase Pine with a good offseason. Jason Jordan, true junior, 82 overall. His progression's not been great. I think he's been getting +4s every offseason from where he started at. So that's hurt him a little bit. Now keep in mind, like, my guys' overalls are a little bit lower than what they'd normally be because of the fact that I dropped the injury ratings down a little bit for him. So you could probably take everybody's overall on my team, add 1 or 2 overall points because their injury rating does affect their overall rating. Cornerback, we're very, very strong. Very excited about the cornerback group that we have this season. Teran Coleman's transferring to Maryland, but our still top 4 corners are all 86 overall or higher. Paris Ford at free safeties, a 92, had a great offseason. Jacob Laughlin did well as well, learning his new position. Jazzy Stalker, 90 overall at strong safety. Fantastic offseason for him as well. So our defensive secondary is unbelievable. We have 6 players at 86 overall or better. I think they are going to be incredible this season. Our defense is the best defense we've ever had, and we've been steadily improving. If you follow along with some of the articles I write on Operation Sports for the Dynasty thread, because I like to do articles along with the videos as well. So if you read any of the articles, our defense has been incredible, improving a lot the last couple of seasons. Last season especially was a big step forward for us. I think this season is the make or break year for this defense, and they could lead us to an incredible heights as far as the season's concerned. And they're going to see a bit more growth here, because if you take a look, every offseason I pick 8 players, I randomly generate, I have our whole roster listed out by number. The freshmen are even on there as well. None of them got hit this time, the true freshmen, but I do 8 numbers get generated, and then I'll do a 1 to 10 random number generation to determine how many overall points they lose, and then I'll pick 2 randomly generated player numbers, and I'll give them 1 to 10 randomly generated overall boosts. So you have 8 players will get some regression, which means they may not progress. It adds a little bit of variety. You know, you may have a player that he looks like he's going to be very good and then has a really bad offseason and just doesn't turn out to be very good. Or you have a player that worked really hard in the offseason. That's where the 2 progressions come in. And you can see Kaiser Artis Scott, Patrick Jones in this case, had fantastic offseasons, worked their hardest and really just develop that second level and that second set of ability that's going to allow them to contribute spectacularly to the team this season. So the way we can see it shook out, we didn't get hit too bad on the regression standpoint. We had a couple big ones, but thankfully they turned out to be guys that probably might not have factored into the lineup anyway. So if we look at the lineup, Jay Menifee, who's our third string middle linebacker currently, lost 3 overall points, so he's going to drop from an 80 overall to a 77. Jacob Lachlan, who we just moved to free safety, had a +6 offseason, very good offseason, turned out to only be a +4. He's going to drop down to 79 overall from his 81, but he's still going to have some chances going into next season. John Browning lost 5 overall points. The third string left guard went from 69 overall to 64 overall, so tough offseason for him. Hopefully he can rebound from that. Jazzy Stalker lost 1 overall, so a starter was hit there, but thankfully he rolled a low roll, only lost 1 overall point, so he's going to go from 90 to 89, still going to be a very, very good contributor, of course. Noah Brooks, our 4th string quarterback, lost 9 overall points. He got hit with the biggest regression of the whole offseason, dropped from 65 overall to 56 overall, and I can't cut anybody, so he's going to stay on the roster, which basically means he's essentially a dead roster spot, right? I don't cut anybody. I recruit to fill the open spots in the lineup, so I can't get rid of him. He's just going to be, unfortunately a player that didn't progress for us and may never see the field, but he's still going to be with the team. He's still a guy that we value for his contributions in that stead anyways, so he's going to drop to 56 overall, unfortunately. Marquise Walker, a reserve cornerback, I think he's our 7th rated cornerback. He's the bottom one. Lost 6 overall points, so he goes from 60 after his redshirt season, drops back to 54, unfortunately. I think I'd have to look back on regression last year, but I think as a true freshman, he might have got hit as well. So unfortunate for Marquise, but he's going to drop to 54 overall. So maybe by his senior year, he works up to a respectable overall to contribute, but we'll see. Trey Tipton, our receiver, lost 3 overall points. So that's a guy that would have been he's in line for our slot position. He's fighting with Paul Lees to play in that slot position. He loses 3 overall, so it's going to make it a much tighter battle for them to compete for that position. He loses 3, drops to an 84 overall. And then our punter, so that's unfortunate, of course. Our starting punter, Eric Fox, lost 4 overall, and so he drops from an 85 to an 81 as a true sophomore. But kickers and punters seem to get such high progression in the offseason that I think he'll be still up to like an 88 overall by next season, and then a 95 by the season after that, the way things progress for them. And then our big bonuses. So these were the 2 guys that rolled progressions. Our nickel corner for this season, Kaiser Artis Scott, gets a +2, so he goes from an 87 to an 89 as a true junior. This guy is unbelievable. I'm looking for him to have a really, really big season from that nickel role. I think he can kind of roam around, play good. He's very good in coverage. He also can blitz the quarterback. I expect to see him have a really big year. And then Patrick Jones. So this is a guy that last season even, he couldn't get into the starting lineup. He's been kind of a reserve his entire career so far for us, but as a redshirt senior coming into next season, he gets a +9, which is incredible. He already had a really good offseason. I think he was a +5, I want to say, something of that nature. So he had a good offseason to get him to an 81. He rolls a +9. He's going to be a 90 overall defensive end for us. He automatically becomes our best defensive end now. I'm looking for him to have a fantastic season, and this is why our defense is going to be such a monster next season. I think we now have 8 or 9 defensive players, and if you want to include Kaiser Artis Scott, the nickel guy, as a starter, if you want to say our base package is a 4-2-5, we have, I think, 9 starters. Yeah, 9 starters that are 89 overall or better. 9 defensive starters at 89 overall or better, and then our 2 other stars would be Wolfgang, who had 14 sacks or whatever he had last year, 16 sacks. He's an 85 and still very, very good. And then Barry Jenkins, our outside linebacker starter, he's still an 86. So our defense is incredible. I think that's going to be the biggest story going into next season, is how well can this Panthers defense put things together? Can they finally coalesce, become one as a unit, and just shut down their opponents? The schedule, when you see it coming up as well, is not terribly difficult this season. So this could really be the breakout year for the defense. I mean, as far as big teams we're playing against, I mean, Penn State is, of course, a non-conference opponent. We're going to have UCF with DiNucci now on their roster. Ben DiNucci's going to go to UCF. That's going to be a tough non-conference opponent. just because he adds that, but their team as a whole is not great. Ohio has a very good quarterback, and they have Matt Canada running their offense, but same thing, not terribly scared of them. And then in our conference schedule, we have probably our two toughest games are the teams that are not in our division. Louisville, who we lost to last season, and then Wake Forest, who's very, very good on offense, a lot of depth there. But beyond that, the schedule's not terribly tough. I think this could be a really good season for us, and I'm really excited to see how things shake out. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hail to Pitt. We'll see you in the next couple episodes. We have, before we get to our first game of the season, I think we just have two more episodes. We'll have the season preview, where we're going to go through our two deep ACC preview, NCAA preview, and a team preview in one episode. And then we're going to have the preview leading into our next game, because we don't play till week 2. You'll see that next episode when we talk about the team schedule and things like that. But we don't play till week 2, so we'll go through week 1, and then we'll have a week 1 recap and a week 2 preview that will lead into our game. And then we'll have the season opener, which, spoiler alert, is going to be against the Ohio Bobcats. So I hope you guys are excited for that. We're getting very, very close to the start of the season. I'm excited. And I can't wait to share it with you guys. So hail to Pitt. We'll see you soon. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.